Hello everyone, and thank you all for joining. We have started a new webinar today that is on Java Collections Framework. So in this session, this 7-day webinar that is going to be every day from now on at 7 p.m, what we are going to do is we are going to discuss one of the most frequently requested topics by all of you. So in the past, the live sessions that I have done on Facebook or on YouTube, in fact even on the last live session that we did on YouTube, many of you requested me to do a collection session. So I thought I'll break it down for you guys, take it step by step, one collection framework at a time, one, let's say, set, linked list, queues. There's so much to collections that it is very difficult to do it, combine it all together in one session. It kind of gets an overdose of technical information out there. So I thought we'll break it down for you guys, both on Facebook as well as YouTube, and take it step by step, take it session by session. So every day we are going, like today, we are going to talk about list. We are going to see what array list is, what a linked list is, how both are different from each other, starting off with basics of what a collection is, right? And step by step, we'll take each individual collection at a time in a day, and we'll see what nitty-gritty details are associated to it, so that it's bite-sized information for you all to chew easily one day at a time. So without further ado, let me just quickly say hi to all of you who are all there. I see on Facebook I have Javed, says hi Javed, and on YouTube I have so many of you. I'm pretty sure you all might be wondering that we used to have Monday live sessions, what we are doing here today. So from today onwards, every day 7 p.m, guys, for the next 7 days, we are going to talk about collections, because all of you requested it so much so that I had to come up with this small webinar for 7 days, right? So YouTube, I have Rajni, I have Arshad, Durgesh has joined, Chaitanya has joined, Sandy Kumar has joined, Vijay has joined. Okay, so you guys on both the channels are asking me where on Facebook or where on YouTube. So just so that you guys know, we have a YouTube channel, TalentSprint IT Placement channel. You can just type it on YouTube, you will find it out. So you can go there. We have more live classes, more series and videos on IT technical stuff there going on. We have a Java beginner series going on there, so you can check that out. And for those guys on YouTube who are asking me where on Facebook, we have a TalentSprint Facebook page. So just go ahead, search TalentSprint Facebook on Facebook, and you'll find out the page. So once you subscribe and like on both the places, you'll get notifications of all these sessions. Okay, so without any further ado, let me quickly jump into the session and start off with very basic, what is a collection framework. So I'll share the screen with you guys. Don't mind the delay or the gap if there is any in answering your questions. I'll try to take up questions after I explain every topic. So it should be going very smooth for both the platforms. All right, so let me quickly start off, share the screen with you. Now, what Java Collection Framework is all about, it's a set of classes and interfaces that help implement commonly reusable data structure. So it's a combination of classes and interfaces. All right. Now, interfaces define the various collections. They define what sort of interfaces will be used, right? And classes give the actual implementation of the collection. So you have java.util.collections interface, that is the root interface, and then within it you have details, you have sets, you have queues, then you have linked list, you have array list. Those are the classes that you can implement, right? So the collection framework essentially is this group of all interfaces and classes that provide us with the ability to deal with data, to manipulate data in the way we want to use it, right? So going back to the sheet that I shared, So what we use collection for is storing and manipulating group of objects. You do a search, you do a sort, you do an insert or a delete. Okay, whatever operation you want to do, you want to store data in there, you want to manipulate data in there, you want to store data, you want to manipulate data, you use collections framework. Okay, now search, sort, insert, delete, these are few of the operations that can be performed using collection framework. Cool. Now what are the prime purposes of using a collection framework? First off, it reduces a programmer's effort. So when you have a framework ready with you, you know what to do with it, right? You know that if you use a list, how it will behave. If you use a set, how it's going to behave. So you are aware of all these basic details, right? Now once you are aware of all these basic details, all you have to do is use the right collection that is applicable for your need. Now another thing that collection framework help us with is it increases the speed of performance. So depending on what operations you want to do and what kind of output you want from your data, you can again choose the right collection framework, which will help improve the speed of your data, right? Speed of your performance. And of course there is increase in quality. Then there is also the additional benefit of reuse. So once a collection framework is defined and designed, you know that you can reuse it again and again in different programs. Of wherever you want to use a list, you can just call the collection interface and you can use it, right? That is the basic advantage of having a collections framework. That is why we have this whole big framework designed for us to use in the Java programming language. Now few more things that I would like to point out here when we are talking about this collection framework is, when you are dealing with collections, they need not be assigned a certain capacity, right? So when, let's say, you are creating an array of, let's say, floating point variables, you need to assign the specific size or the length of the array that you want to create. With collections, you don't have to specify this length. Your collection size can increase as and when you keep on adding data into it. If you remove bunch of data, it can shrink to the need of the data. Okay, so the memory wastage or memory leakage both don't occur when you're using a collection framework, right? Next thing that I want to point out is that when you use collections, let's say this is your array list, right? Now if you, let's say, remove this piece of data, these last four data, your size will remain to this much, correct? And as we are talking about collection framework, the data that goes inside is objects. Okay, so in arrays you store primitive data types, right? For example, you can have an array of int, you can have an array of float, but when we talk about collections framework, we have, or we deal basically with wrapper classes. So we have array list of integer wrapper class, or we have a linked list of float wrapper class. All right, so when we work with collection framework, we deal with wrapper classes. So that is the simple base for collections framework, why we have collection framework, etc. Now I can see few of you have some doubts out there, so let me just quickly take them before I jump onto the next part of the session. And I see, what is the difference between normal array and array in collection? So Chaitanya Das has asked, what is the difference between a normal array and array in collection? Chaitanya, when we talk about a normal array, like I said, it has a fixed size, right? So if you define or declare an array of size 20 or 25, you cannot insert the 26th element into the array, or you cannot access the data of, let's say, a of 26 let's say your array is called a of 26, if you try to assess, it will give you an error that saying that array index out of bounds, right? But the same thing, let's say you create an array list. Cool. Now when you create an array list, first off, you don't have to specify the size. It can grow as much as it has to during the course of the program. It can reduce during the course of the program. It manipulates itself. That is the first big difference between the array and the array list. Now every other implementation, that is the values are indexed, you can assess elements, everything else remains same. So the difference that there is that this cannot grow, the array cannot grow, and the array that is in collection, that means that it is an array list, it can grow or reduce in size based on the operations that you are performing on it. All right, so that is one difference. Now Gaurav has asked, what is a wrapper class? So Gaurav, a wrapper class is what wraps your primitive data types and give you an object. You might not always want to use an integer data type, right, in your program. Sometimes what you want to do is you want an object, but it has to be integer. So what wrapper classes do is they provide you with the objects of the same data types. So for int, it is integer, for float, it is float, likewise. And similarly, when you unwrap these wrapper classes, you get the primitive data type back, correct? That is the simple funda of wrapper classes. So Praveen also asked, what is wrapper class? So I think Dharmendra also asked the same. So I think wrapper classes are a bit more clear to you now. Primitive data types are int x is equals to 25. So that is an integer variable that is holding the value 25, correct? Now let's say you are writing a program or a function that is taking an object as input parameter, and you want to pass this value 25 to that function. How do you do that? You wrap it into a wrapper class. You create an integer wrapper class to which you assign this value, and then you pass that object of integer class to your function. That is the simple purpose of having a wrapper class. Okay, now what else do we have? So Shubha Reddy is asking, what will happen if I insert millions or billions of record in an array list? The size is not fixed. So that is where the performance thing comes into picture, Shubha. So if you insert millions and billions of data into an array list, you won't be able to do much with it, because later on assessing that millions and billions of data or changing that millions and billions of data, deleting records, modifying values will take a lot of time. That is where time complexity and all the space utilizations come into picture, right? So if you have that huge bulk of data, you will use a collection framework that will provide you with faster insertion speeds, faster data read and data delete and data manipulation speeds, right? Array list is basically for shorter group of data. It's not meant for millions and billions of data. It is basically designed for smaller data set in which you want to insert faster or access data faster. That is the purpose of array list. Okay, then we have a few questions on give some small idea about this class. So Sindhuri, we have just started with the session and we are talking about insertion class. Now collections framework, we'll start off with the list and then we'll move on to array list and linked list. Okay, so you have not missed out much. What else do we have? Rajneesh has asked the question, in array store only homogeneous type of data, but in collection we store both homogeneous and heterogeneous type of data. That is also correct. In arrays, if you declare an integer array, you can store only integer values in it. All right, but in collections, like Rajneesh has mentioned here rightly, you can store different types of data sets. Okay, so Rudra Rao says, I have understood wrapper classes, not understood wrapper classes. Okay, Rudra, wrapper classes, quickly reiterating again, then I'll jump on to back to the session. If you have an integer data type, a primitive data type, okay, which holds certain value, let's say a floating point number having a value 15.5. Now there are chances that down the line in your program you would need an object that represents this value 15.5. Let's say you have designed a function that takes only objects as input parameter to work on, and now you want to use that function in your current program with this 15.5 primitive data. What you do is you convert this primitive data into a wrapper class. Wrapper class, what it does is it converts this primitive data into an object and gives it to you for your use. Once you're done with it, you can later on convert it back if you need to a primitive data type. Okay. Alright, so Sai Kiran is asking me what are the basic questions as in service-based companies about Java. So all these questions, Sai Kiran, I'll not take up in this session because this is a very quick brief session where we'll only talk about collections. These questions we can take up in the Monday's live session that we are going to have on the YouTube channel. Alright. Now, Krishna Sudha on Facebook has asked, how does the array list size in collection keeps going? I think Krishna Sudha, you meant how does the size keeps growing. Okay, so the size simply keeps growing at the moment you add, like we'll see later on, the moment you add another element in a linked list, what simply happens is the last node of the linked list points to the next element. If you delete that element, that pointer is lost, so making it the last element. We'll see it quickly, pictorially representation, so that it's easier for you guys to understand how linked list addition deletions work. All right, so I'll jump back to the sheet now. Moving on, so this was collection framework. Now the root package that we deal with, the root interface that we deal with is java.util.collection. Okay, now this is an interface, but we never use this interface. We use the implementations of this interface in our program, like set, list, queue, map. All right, we never directly create a collection into the program. We use these sub interfaces for our work in the program. Now when we say Java collection framework, framework simply means abstraction that provides generic functionality. So what collection does is it provides you the generic functionality that all these interfaces would implement. Okay, and then the specific functionality is given in detail in each individual interface or class. All right, selectively whatever you want to do, like sets do a certain type of operation that we'll define in set interface, list do some different kind of operations that we define in list interface, right? But some basic operations that all of these interfaces are supposed to do are defined in the collection interface. Okay, now how are these interfaces different from each other? What are the parameters? Some of the interfaces can be ordered. The data you put remains in the same order. Some interfaces can be unordered. The data you put is just put there, but it is not in any particular order. Some interfaces allow duplicate values, right? While some interfaces don't allow any duplicate values. Correct? Some of these interfaces might allow null values. Some might not allow any null values. So you cannot insert a null value in some of the interfaces, right? So based on these different functionalities, there is difference between a set and a list and a queue and a map. Now what each of these do in detail, we'll take a look at each one of these one by one in this webinar series. All right, so jumping on to the next, like I said, collection is an interface that provides us with certain basic details and implementations, right? So what are these basic functionalities that a collection interface provides us with? So we have first off addition. If you want to add any element into your collection, you have add and then you provide the element. What will this do? Whatever collection you have already, it will add a new element into the collection, right? Then we have add all. Now in this you provide a collection as parameter. So let's say you have a collection X with certain set of values, and you say you want to add a collection C with certain set of values to it. So you say X dot add all, and then you provide the second collection. What you get in return is X plus C with all the set of values in the collection. Correct? Then we have clear, which removes all the elements from the connection. We have contains, which check if a particular object is present in the collection or not. Then is empty will check if your collection is empty or not. Remove will remove a particular element from your collection. Size will give you the size of the collection. So how many elements are there in the collection will be returned by the size of the element. And then finally we have toArray. What toArray does is it simply converts whatever collection you have, takes all the data members, puts them in an array and returns the array back to you. Alright, that is the purpose of a toArray function. Now before moving on to the next slide, I would like to take your questions quickly. Okay, Prachi says, what is a collection? Prachi, a collection is a group of different frameworks or functionalities. Like let's say you have a data set where you want to whatever data you enter into it, you want it to be in a particular order. So for that we created a particular collection, right? Now if you, let's say you want some structure in your program where the user should not be able to enter any null value or any duplicate value. So in that case, what you do is you create a particular type of collection. Now all these things are pre-existing and given as part of this collection framework. All we need to do is we need to know which collection gives us what functionalities so that we can use it accordingly to our desire, right? That is the simple functionality of collections. Okay. Now add all. Dharmendra is asking add all again, please. Dharmendra, what add all does is, let's say you have a collection and you want to add another collection to it. You don't want to add 1 or 2 or 3 more values. You want to add a complete another collection to your existing collection. For that you use add all function. So it adds all the elements of the collection to your current collection. All right. Okay. Next, Rajneesh is asking, map is not child interface of collection. So yeah, map is not child interface of collection, you're right, but the point is that collection is the root interface in the whole hierarchy. So it gives you with certain functionalities, methods that you can use on all, and those can be implemented on maps as well. All right. Now next, Shivam has asked, ordered and unordered, can you please elaborate? So by ordered and unordered, I mean certain collections will give you ordered data, right? So if you add some number, let's say we are adding numbers, they will be ordered in certain places. Now when you have some other collection, which we'll talk about in the coming up sessions, in a few other collections, these set of data is not ordered. So whatever haywire you enter 25, then you enter 13, then you enter 2, then you enter 101. Whatever you enter, it be placed there like that. But certain collections do order it for you automatically. You don't have to do it. The collection framework orders it for you. So there are type of collections like that as well, which we'll look at in the later sessions. All right. So Dharmendra, add all I have explained. If you have any other query, let me know. And let me quickly get to Amit. Okay, Amit Sethi says collection is group of homogeneous and heterogeneous objects which contain unique and duplicate elements. Okay, unique and duplicate you cannot use simultaneously. Some of the collections allow you to only enter unique elements. Some of the collection allow you to add duplicate elements as well, right? Like I mentioned on the screen, ordered, some are unordered, some allow for duplication, some don't allow for duplication. Some of these, allow you to have null values, some of them don't allow you to have null values. All right, all these features differentiate these collections from each other. All right, then on Facebook we have Rohit Singh asking for, please post your preference email ID so that we can get credentials. I'm not sure, Rohit, what you're talking about, but then let me move back to collections. All right, so that was a brief intro on collections, and tomorrow onwards we'll start taking a look at each of the collection classes and interfaces in detail. Like tomorrow, what we are planning to do is have list, array list, linked list, and tell you what is the difference between array list and linked list, between array and array list, so that it's then becomes easier for you to differentiate and decide when you are creating your programs what kind of collection you want to choose, whether you want to choose and go ahead with an array list in the program, or you want to go ahead with a linked list in the program. Okay, and Nagapuri on Facebook has asked, can you please make live session on data structures? Nagapuri, I'll take that recommendation, and maybe after, once we are done with this 7-day webinar that we have planned, maybe the next thing we can take up is data structures. All right, thank you so much for your suggestion. We'll keep that in mind. So guys, anything else around this session? Rajneesh is asking timing. Rajneesh, timing is 7 p.m. every day from today onwards, right? So today was the first session where we discussed what a collection is, why a collection is used, why do we need to know about collection framework, what are the different type of collection frameworks, how the collection frameworks are different from each other. All right, we discussed all these things. From tomorrow onward, we'll jump on to individual collection interfaces and classes. Okay, exceptions. Pradeep Bhagat says exceptions. Pradeep, exceptions we are not going to talk about in this webinar series as well, but I'll again take that for the live session that we are going to have on Monday. So guys, Monday we have a live session on our YouTube channel. All of you are welcome to join. The topic will be posted tomorrow, so please subscribe the channel so that you get an update of when the session is starting. Monday 6 o'clock will be the session, and again we'll keep continuing with this session for the next 7 days. So join me in the session and we'll get to know collections in more detail and get to debunk all the nitty-gritty details of each and every collection. All right guys, so thank you so much for joining everyone, and I'll see you tomorrow at the same time. Bye bye.